let me be perfectly frank. Cheaters suck ass. And honestly, anti-cheat sucks as well. It's unfortunate that anti-cheat has become a necessary evil in the world of gaming. And it's due to this fear that makes devs unwilling to support Steam Deck. So to be clear, yes, there are anti-cheat games that do work on Steam Deck. The biggest one I can think of is Apex Legends. And you know what? It's great that you can play Apex Legends on the Steam Deck. But what if I don't want to play Apex? What if I want to play like Destiny 2 or something? Therein lies the big issue. Currently on SteamOS, you cannot play Destiny 2, or Rainbow Six Siege, or Dragon Ball FighterZ, or Modern Warfare 2, or Genshin Impact. What do all of these games have in common? Well, they use anti-cheat, but not just any anti-cheat, but the types of anti-cheat that wouldn't work on Proton, which is Valve's compatibility layer for playing Windows games on your Steam Deck. That said, Easy Anti-Cheat and BadLie can be configured by the devs to work on the Steam Deck. But currently, a majority of games that use Easy Anti-Cheat or BadLie, well, simply put, the devs haven't flipped the switch for Linux support. So while Valve's blog post says that it's as easy as flipping an option, the truth is, it's never as easy as it seems. But why though? Well, the circumstances for each game are very different. So let's take a look at this. This is a post from a developer at Fatshark, the creators of Warhammer Vermintide 2. They've actually revealed that there are two different types of easy anti-cheat. One that uses Epic Online Services and one that doesn't use Epic Online Services. And of course, they use the version of easy anti-cheat that doesn't include Epic Online Services. Essentially, their claims are that they would have to basically rip out their entire anti-cheat and swap it with a version that uses Epic Online Services. Of course, later on, Valve did end up making a statement claiming that they updated the support for anti-cheat, meaning that you don't even have to rip out your existing version of easy anti-cheat. Of course, we do get developer updates on this front, but they seem to be having a difficult time enabling Steam Deck support. Still though, here's to hoping that they make good on their word. That said, you could actually play the game on Steam Deck, albeit mostly single player only. So on one hand, it seems like it's a technical difficulty trying to enable Steam Deck support. And while this doesn't really sound like great news, it shows the devs' intent on trying to support the Steam Deck, and a bit of honesty goes a long way. Like, yeah, sure, they're having technical difficulties and it doesn't allow them to enable support currently. But the truth of the matter is, they're trying, and they're letting us know what's really going on. And they're not giving us some boilerplate statement like, oh, we're looking into it, yada yada yada. Of course, it's not always a matter of technical difficulties, but rather whether or not it's worth it. This is Gary Newman, founder of Facepunch Studios, the developers of Garry's Mod and Rust. So Rust doesn't work on Steam Deck currently. A couple of years ago, Rust used to have official Linux support. This is no longer the case. Their main cited reasons were that they basically couldn't give the Linux version the attention that it needed, and also the fact that the Linux community was also being abusive and rude to the developers, which in my humble opinion is absolutely unacceptable. Developers are humans after all. Of course, these days you don't need a native Linux version of a game anymore. So why does Rust still not work on Steam Deck via Proton? Essentially, Gary Newman's claims were that basically most cheaters used Windows, but there were a couple of Linux cheaters that stayed undetected for quite some time. And of course, trying to make EAC hunt down these Linux cheaters wouldn't have been a great use of their time. I mean, I'm not gonna doubt the fact that there are Linux cheaters out there. They'll do anything to get their cheat on. They'll buy multiple copies of a game for multiple different accounts. They'll make multiple different accounts on a game so that in case they get banned, they can just switch to another account. Cheaters do all sorts of things to be able to play the same game that they got banned from over and over again while still cheating. At this point, it's a mentality issue. But this really calls into question whether or not cheaters really want to switch to Linux. I mean, Gary even said it himself, a majority of cheaters were on Windows. To the average cheater, account bans are nothing, it's just a minor temporary setback. So it really calls into question, why bother switching OSs when you can just make a brand new account and start cheating again? I've also scoured around some cheating websites and I've found very little interest in making cheats for Linux. Though given how tech savvy the average Linux user is, it's very possible that these Linux cheaters are just hiding from the public. So do Linux cheaters exist? Well, of course they exist. Will enabling Linux support for these games running anti-cheat open the floodgates and make these games flooded with hackers? If I had to guess, probably not. Let's take a look at Apex Legends. Well, as of May 2022, a developer from Respawn Entertainment claims that cheating has been its lowest ever, and this is in ranked matches as well. Their main cited reason was probably improved detection, and this was 3 months after they enabled easy anti-cheat support for Linux. Like, with all of these rumblings about devs being afraid of enabling anti-cheat support for Linux, you would think that Apex would be crawling with cheaters from Linux, but evidence suggests that that's not entirely true. But it is worth mentioning that Apex Legends has backing from EA, one of the biggest and richest game companies in the world, so they probably have the resources to deal with any sort of cheaters from any OS, Linux included. So what's a smaller developer like Facepunch Studios supposed to do? It's really hard to say, honestly. It's very easy for a lot of people to tell Gary Newman to just enable Linux support and that be that. But having dived a little deeper into this topic, I can tell you that there is a genuine concern with Linux cheaters, especially in a game like Rust where cheating doesn't destroy a single match, but rather destroys weeks of progress. Not to mention, given the types of users Linux users are, it's very possible that these Linux users are operating in secret, away from the public eye, in secret groups. Now this is the interesting part. Let's talk about what game devs and publishers have been doing to cheaters and cheat makers outside of just, banning them. Probably the most prominent developer on this front is none other than Bungie Incorporated. Bungie is out for blood, more specifically, the blood of those that make cheat software. Essentially, the bigger cheaters that make big cheat software. Let's just say Bungie's been taking them to court, and it doesn't seem like these cheaters can cheat the legal system now, can they? I have no love for big companies, and I especially don't agree with every decision Bungie's made, especially in regards to Destiny 2. But I do think this is a great step, and for those of you thinking that this is somehow going to negatively affect mods, the truth is, this isn't going to make things any worse than they already are. One look at Take-Two and their stance against GTA modders tells you all that you need to know about what's going on. And over in South Korea, they outlawed cheating. Distributing programs to modify or gain an advantage during play incurs fines of up to $43,000 USD, or 5 years in jail. Given South Korea was one of the first countries to legitimize esports as a legitimate sport, it's unsurprising that they took this stance. That said, some people would consider this to be too extreme of a punishment. Whether or not you believe it to be justified is another story. How they actually go about enforcing this stuff, I couldn't tell you. But it is something that they do enforce, and they do in fact jail hackers, even all the way back in 2018. They jailed Overwatch hackers. The anti-cheat situation with Linux is quite complex, and while a good portion of it can be attributed to technical difficulties, I think a vast majority of the issue lies with whether or not it's worth it to accommodate Linux or Steam Deck users. Devs outright admit that most cheaters will be on Windows, but of course there are claims that there are secretive Linux cheaters out there. Tech-savvy Linux users that know how to evade being caught and banned. This, alongside the stereotype that all Linux users are secretly hackers, this whole situation doesn't really bode well for the average Steam Deck user that just wants to play their favorite multiplayer games on the go. But beyond the Steam Deck, there's this war between cheaters and developers going on, and I don't mean the traditional cat and mouse games that they play, but rather a legal battle. It's gotten to a point where an entire nation outlawed cheating, and made it something that you can actually go to jail for. Of course, I want to see how this whole thing plays out. Maybe there is something to all of these lawsuits, and who knows? Maybe after all of these lawsuits, we won't need anti-cheat anymore, and maybe we can play multiplayer games on deck again. If you like this video, you should check out the rest of my channel. And if you like the rest of my channel, you should like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon. When you click on the bell icon, you're ensuring that you'll be one of the first to watch my new video when it releases. And for more high-tech lowlife, check out our Discord server. Links always in the description.